Oh, I will, of course, yeah.
No, I won't be able to do it straight away. No, when are you going away? Are you going away to see?
except for some reason or other, we can't see me. We can't see anybody.
Are we live yet?
Yep, we're
Are we
live.
live yet?
We are live.
Pardon?
We are live.
We are live.
Yes. But nobody can see us because we have to reconnect to the Zoom meeting. I always forget that we have to do that every single time, otherwise it doesn't work. And it's display capture.
And I have to stand up because I've got a bad back.
Yeah?
Not funny. Yeah, got a pretty bad back.
Sorry to hear that.
Too much golf, Paul?
Pardon?
Too much golf?
No, I couldn't even swing a golf club at the moment, Ted. I'm in pain. So I'm, I'm not sure what it is.
So it's probably something small, the height of your laptop or the angle of your neck looking at the screen, something like that.
Okay.
So we're live on YouTube. So are we being
live?
seen?
Yes.
and heard?
Welcome YouTube to this session of the recording of the Talk Show for Talkers on irishtalkers.com. You're very welcome. I see we already have some viewers.
Welcome, viewers.
Are we ready to? I'm ready to go. So
I am too.
Good.
Should we, if we're talking live to people on YouTube, should we not introduce ourselves?
That's not a bad idea.
I'm just thinking that there might be some people who will tune into the recording of the Talk Show for Talkers and say to themselves, who are these people?
Well, it will become clear in due course, Paul, because we're all named, except that the names have gone completely out the creek because
No, they're all right, Martha.
I need to change the names around. Because Ted is Moira.
Look. With no more ado, hello, viewers on YouTube. I'm Paul O'Mahony. I belong to Toastmasters International, and I'm talking to you from my office in Cork, Ireland. And I'm a co-presenter on this podcast, which you can find easily by looking for Irish Talkers in your podcatcher. And I'm part of a team, and now let me introduce you to the other member of the team, the man with the tie on him, Ted Melanphy. He's the guy who first dreamt up the idea that there should be a podcast all about Toastmasters International coming out of Cork. Ted Melanphy, would you like to say a word or two?
I certainly would, and thank you for that glowing introduction, Paul. Introducing me as the man with the tie. That sounds fantastic. That makes me very makes me very prestigious altogether. But you are welcome, YouTubers, to this recording of Talk Show for Talkers, and it's all about what happens in Toastmasters within and without the even clubs. So I hope you stay with us for the entire show. You're more than welcome, and I hope you enjoy what you're going to be listening to.
Which will be a bit messy, listeners or viewers, because this is the raw stuff you see behind the scenes. We get stopping and starting, and the woman who keeps us in order is here on the screen, and she's Moira O'Brien, and she's Moira.
Well, she's not on the screen at the moment because she's messing around with names and trying to get Ted in the right place.
Are you visible?
I'm now visible, yes.
Oh, yeah. Who are you then? Introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Moira O'Brien. I used to be a presenter on the Talk Show for Talkers for about 4 years till I ran out of steam. But in the meantime, I've also been producing the show. So I do all the clever stuff behind the scenes. So when the screen changes, as it might do like now, where I'm on screen and Ted and Paul are slightly smaller, and I'm calling myself Christine, which is very bad because I'm not Christine, of course, but I do this particular bit of manipulation around the place. So that's it.
Well done, Mara. Well done.
And I'm going to hide myself very shortly because that's what I do. I hide.
She's also a magician.
I'm not, to be honest with you, it's a long time since I've had just the two of you because we've had so many good interviews recently.
Yes, true.
So I've forgotten how to do it. Anyway, shall we get going?
Yes, please.
All right. So I'm ready, Ted.
I'm ready, Moira.
3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, Toastmasters, would-be Toastmasters listeners and friends. You're very welcome to the Talk Show for Talkers on irishtalkers.com. Our email address is info@irishtalkers.com. You can find us on Facebook as the Talk Show for Talkers, and we welcome your comments, any questions, feedback. Indeed, we regard it as evaluation, so anything you come back to us with, we can work with it. So don't be reluctant, get those messages in, give us those pointers. You might be the person who will spark the next conversation on the Talk Show for Talkers. My name is Ted Malamphy, and I'm joined again this week by the personable, passionate, persuasive, pain-inducing, or inducted even, Paul O'Mahony.
Listeners, thank you very much for being here. It's a pleasure to have your company.
Thank you, Paul. And I hope people didn't pick me up wrong when I said pain-inducing, but Paul did reveal to us earlier, and YouTubers, you will have heard him saying it, that he's suffering with lower back pain at the moment. And lots of us know exactly what he could be talking about. It's not a nice place to be, especially if you're expected to sit in one of these executive chairs for an hour or so. So Paul is doing what he should do now. He's actually standing. So I did say that we're going to be doing what we normally do. We're not going to have a guest interviewee tomorrow, but we are going to have something that you will be, I hope you will enjoy listening to. It's going to be a YouTube offering from Oprah Winfrey, and it's a motivational speech. I found it quite interesting. And a lot of what she says in that particular episode resonates with Toastmasters. And I'm going to give you what my thought for the week is. The only skill that will be important in the 21st century is the skill of learning new skills. Everything else will become obsolete over time. And that was given to us by Peter Drucker. So again, for your benefit, Paul, since we'll have a little chat about it, the only skill that will be important in the 21st century is the skill of learning new skills. Everything else becomes obsolete over time. Your thoughts?
When I was at school, we learned a whole load of facts. It was really important to be able to recite poetry by heart, learn the periodic table, learn the dates for the kings and queens of Cork. All of these things were facts, bits of information. We learned essays off by heart. In other words, we learned packages of information. And things have changed so much since the time I was at school, and so quickly. The rate of technological advance is getting faster and faster every decade. So the ability to learn is getting more and more important, and being able to learn in more and more different ways. Look at the situation. If I want to know any fact, I simply look up Wikipedia. I don't need to know exactly how many rivers flow into the Atlantic Ocean in Ireland, or how many mountains in England are over 3,000 feet. I can simply get hold of that information within seconds if I've got a good Wi-Fi connection. So learning to learn, learning to be a better learner. I think Drucker's right on this occasion.
I think that's a lovely answer that you gave. And, you know, we're so fortunate to be living in the age that we're living in, because technology and the way you can forage your own for any piece of information whatsoever that you need. You really have a university in your back pocket now, have you not? with a mobile phone?
Oh, certainly, certainly. And I never go out without my university in my pocket.
And sure, we're all after becoming slaves to those universities in our back pockets and on our windscreens. And the first thing we do when we get up in the morning is we put our hand out to turn off the alarm on it.
Well, speak for yourself, Ted. The first thing I do when I get up in the morning is I turn on the BBC News app in order to see what's happened in the world.
On your phone, is it?
On my phone, of course.
Yeah, well, sure, that's what I said, on your phone.
But I think this is a great way of starting the day. Start the day with an interest in what's happening outside your own house. I think that's openness to the world, open-minded curiosity. I think that's a really positive way to live. And I would say that, of course, because it's the way in which I live.
Yeah, incredible, actually. And if you just go back 100 years, the way we gathered our news, actually, a nice story about this area where we're living in Cork. I worked for a national newspaper, and the way they got their news back then was that the editor of the original paper used to row out to the ships that came into Cove, and you'd have people on the ships from America, and he'd ask them, what kind of news have you over there? And that was the news that appeared on the paper the next day. No, you can actually see the news as it happens. You don't have to go rowing out with your 2 oars and you're pulling the little boat towards the ship. Incredible, isn't it?
Well, yes, and learning to learn becomes more and more important then, because there's no point in clogging up your brain with more and more information. What you need is to have an awareness of where you can find information, how you can access it, and probably more important than everything else is how you can use it.
Yeah, and that's so true too, Paul, because, as you said, when you were going to school, how things have changed. I'll give you an example. I have a 3-year-old grandson. He goes to creche, and he said he was doing maths the other day. I said, when I was going to school, we called them sums. So I said, do you know how to multiply? He said, what's that? Well, I said, when you multiply 2 numbers, one by the other, you get a bigger number. So I said 7 4s would be 28. Now, this was a bit over his head. He said, that's not the way we do it now at all, Granda. You're doing it the wrong way, Granda. He was trying to, and I said, do you know how to divide? He said, what's that? I said, divide then is that you're going to get a smaller number. So I said, if you were to divide 28 by 7, what would you get? He says, I don't know, Granda. He said, they didn't teach me that yet, but they didn't teach me anything about multi, what did you call it, Granda? And they didn't tell me anything about what did you call that, Granda? Addition or, that's a very funny word, Granda, he said. No, he says, we do it differently. No, we don't do it the way you did it at all. He said, they give us this thing with all little numbers on it, little balls, and we move them across. And I said, that's a fantastic tool, I said. That's an invention that could go far. So he was talking about an abacus that they had inside the school at 3 years of age. I suppose that's all they do have. But I was trying to give him the concept of multiplication is when the number gets bigger and division is when the number gets smaller. So I'm going to have to work with him again this weekend.
The poor guy got confused because both of those definitions refer to addition and subtraction, of course. You put 2 numbers together and you get a bigger answer. That's addition, isn't it?
That's
and when
addition,
you put 2 numbers together and you get a smaller answer, that's subtraction.
Subtraction. But I was talking about 2 other facets of maths. I was talking about multiplication and division. You're talking about addition and subtraction. That's another facet.
Well, I tell you something, Ted, I feel quite impoverished when it comes to talking about mathematics these days. And you could say that I am indigent when it comes to mathematics.
You're indignant.
I am.
What did you say? You're indignant.
Impoverished. And the word of the week this week is indigent. 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 It's a adjective. To be an indigent person is a person who is poor, somebody who is broke or destitute, down and out or hard up. Indigence is a noun. You can be in a state of indigence.
Indigence.
Indigent.
I always thought that was when the men went to the loo.
I don't know about that.
Indigence. Where's Paul gone? He's indigent.
I see. Oh, my goodness. Well, look, you're way too fast for me this week. But indigent is a handy word if you're looking for an alternative to poverty. And if you're looking for a word which was invented and isn't used very often, when would you say it was first used in English, Ted? Any thoughts about how long?
Well, you know how good I'm at guessing these things out, but 17th century, I'd say.
Which century do you think it was?
17th.
It's a 15th century word, apparently.
Is it? Yes.
Yeah, and it comes.
No wonder we never used it.
As usual, it comes from French and Latin in some way. So to speak about somebody as being indigent, tricky, of course, if you remember that it can also sound to somebody for whom English isn't their first language, indigents. It could be a little bit risky to use.
Yes, I agree with you.
To be short of money, to be short of language, to be short of clothing, to be short of housing.
To be caught short?
In a state of, to be indigent is a difficult situation to be in. So when you're telling stories about people who have gone through hard times, the word indigent might be useful in that context.
Well done, Paul, and that's a nice segue to finish out this segment 1 of this week's episode of the Talk Show for Talkers. And we'll see you again tomorrow, and we'll have Oprah Winfrey giving us some thoughts when she gives the valedictorian speech to her alma mater.
Moira, you
I
can't
know.
be heard.
Yeah. You reckon it's a valedictorian speech, not a commencement speech?
It might be a commencement
I don't
speech,
know. It doesn't actually say, so I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah, but isn't the valedictorian speech, isn't that a commencement? No, that's when they finish up.
I've no idea, Ted. It's all Greek to me.
The word, one word that it might be is valedictory. Is it valedictory?
Yeah, isn't that when they graduate?
Well, they seem to call it commencement, Ted, so...
Oh, I thought the commencement was when they started in university.
No, it's commencement of your journey in the real world.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah,
right. So,
yeah.
And what about the valedictory speech, and when do we give that?
No idea. Perhaps one of our listeners on YouTube can give us the answer.
I was full sure that's what was given at the end of their stay in university.
Valedictory is a farewell speech.
Farewell, right, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but it would be equally appropriate at the graduation ceremony, let's put it that way.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah, graduation is farewell.
Yeah, but it's also, it's called the commencement speech.
Okay. Have you listened to this? Have you listened to Oprah giving the speech, Moira?
Yeah, I had it running whilst I was working, and
okay.
I half
Did you
listened
get
to it.
an opportunity to listen to it, Paul?
No.
Okay. Do you want to listen to it?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to listen to it,
yeah, because there's nice. It resonates with Toastmasters. A lot of talk about excellence and service particularly.
Okay, Ted, do you want to do the intro?
Commencement mean it's your commencement of your life out in society after you finish your education?
That's what I understand. Now, I may be wrong, but that's all these commencement speeches that we have used appeared to be that particular.
Yeah.
I'm just going to Google
Of course,
it.
as Toastmasters, we know that you never finish our education.
Commencement speech definition. Here we go. Commencement
It's
is a
given to
ceremony in which
graduating
degrees or
people.
diplomas are conferred upon graduating students. A commencement speech is typically given by a notable figure in the community or a graduating student. So, yeah.
Excellent. Fills that gap.
Yeah,
sorry.
so it is a commencement speech.
So
Yeah, very good.
they're synonyms then, valedictory and commencement.
Could well be, yeah.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
All right, Ted, do you want to give your introduction to this, please?
Certainly, yeah.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome, Toastmasters, would-be Toastmasters listeners and friends, to segment 2 of this week's offering of the Talk Show for Talkers. We have a special for you this week. It's Oprah Winfrey, and she's giving a motivational speech that is regarded as one of the best ever. And this is a commencement speech. And I think you'll agree by the time you listen to it that it resonates a lot with what the 4 pillars of Toastmasters. So respect, integrity, service, and excellence. Sorry about that, folks.
You didn't need to sorry about that, folks, Ted, because that was recorded.
Oh, sorry, Mara. Yeah.
I can always cut out pauses. The
Well
only
done.
thing you have to do, Ted, actually, is to carry on as if you hadn't made a mistake or you hadn't
Forgotten
to keep the
something.
same tone as if it was instantaneous, because
See, okay.
I can take out the 4.5 seconds that it took you to get there.
And excellence. Service and excellence.
Actually, it was pretty good. So not to worry. All right, and 2 seconds, and then we can listen. And because that was a nice short intro, Ted, we might have a minute or so to discuss at the end if you want it.
Okay, thanks, Mara.
The 3 things that I want to leave with you, just these 3. I could do 10, I could do a whole life class. But just these 3 things will carry you if you let them. First and foremost, knowing who you are. Knowing who you are. Being able to answer this question, who am I? And what do I want? Who am I really? My answer is I am God's child. I am that which is born of all that is. I am, as Pierre de Chardin said, a spiritual being having a human experience. Come trailing the breath of the ancestors yet, but trailing the breath of the angels, and understanding that because I am connected to the source of all that is possible for me. That's who I am. And what do I want? I don't want to just be successful in the world. I don't want to just make a mark or have a legacy. The answer to that question for me is I want to fulfill the highest, truest expression of myself as a human being. I want to fulfill the promise that the Creator dreamed when He dreamed the cells that made up me. What do I want? You must have some kind of vision for your life. Even if you don't know the plan, you have to have a direction in which you choose to go. What I've learned is that's a great metaphor for life. You want to be in the driver's seat of your own life, because if you're not, life will drive you. So, knowing who you really are in this space and time that we embody. That's number 1. What do you want? who are you? Number two, you must find a way to serve. Martin Luther King said that not everybody can be famous, but everybody can be great because greatness is determined by service. Now, we live in a world where everybody wants to be famous and where we admire people for just being famous. We think being known brings us value. The truth is, all of that will fade in time. In 3 years, you won't be able to name the housewives of Atlanta. The real truth is that service and significance, service and the significance that you bring to your service is that which is lasting. So to be able to, whatever your occupation or job or talent or gift is, our honorees today getting doctorate degrees, to apparently opposite fields, HIV and AIDS and the spoken word. But what they have in common is service, using the spoken word in service to community and the world, using your knowledge and information about HIV and AIDS and medicine in service to the world. And if you look at all the most successful people in the world, whether they know it or not, they have that paradigm of service. Everybody's talking about Mark Zuckerberg and IPO. Service. Jay-Z rapping. Service through the word, to people, through song. For many years, I was really just happy to be on TV, and people would stop and say, "Oh, you on TV?" "Yeah, I'm on TV. I like being on TV. It's a nice job." And it was about the time that I received my honorary doctorate from Spelman around 1993. So I don't know if that had something to do with it. I thought of myself as Dr. Winfrey. That I went back and I took a long look at what it was I was doing on TV and made a decision that I was no longer going to just be on TV, but I was going to use TV as a platform, as a force for good, and not be used by TV. And I will tell you, my decision to make that significant change in the way I operated on television, using television as a service, changed my career exponentially. Service through medicine, service through art, using whatever it is you produce, your product, as a way of giving back to the world. When you shift the paradigm of whatever it is you choose to do to service and you bring significance to that, success will, I promise you, follow you. Service and significance equals success. That's number two. Number three, it's so simple, but so hard to do. Always do the right thing. Be excellent. People notice. Think of how you notice. You go to Taco Bell, somebody gives you an extra napkin and some sauce. You notice. You want to go back to that person. Because even at Taco Bell, excellence shows itself. Be excellent. Let excellence be your brand. Everybody talks about building a brand. I never even knew what that was. When people would say, "You're a brand," I would say, "No, I'm just Oprah." What I recognize now is that my choice to, in every way, in every example, in every experience, to do the right thing and the excellent thing is what has created the brand. And what I know is that when you are excellent, you become unforgettable. People remember you. You stand out. Regardless of what it is, you become an unforgettable woman. And that is what we all want. We want to be unforgettable and not forgettable. So doing the right thing, even when nobody knows you're doing the right thing, will always bring the right thing to you. I promise you that. Why? Because the third law of motion is always at work. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That is so true in all of our lives. You just have to do the right thing, and the right thing will follow you even when people don't support it. I remember many times on my show, there are many shows y'all never saw. And the reason you didn't see them is because I got the last vote. And I remember 2010, my team, hardest working team in television, had done this interview with a woman who turns out she was a Sunday school teacher by day and a sex addict at night. And they were like, you won't believe it. We got her going out, we got her with the men, and we get to show her, and she was willing to show us everything. I sat down with the woman for an interview that was taped. And during the process of the interview, I said, why are you doing this? And she said, oh, I want to help people. I want to tell my story and I want to help people. I said, do you have children? She says, yes, I have a 10-year-old son. I knew right then, this is never going to see the light of day. So we got off the air and I said to the lady, we are not going to air that show. And she said, why? My producer said, why? She knew she was being filmed. She knew what she was saying. She knows what you... I said, because her son will never get over it. Her son will never get over it. And it's not worth a rating point to me. Not worth a rating point to me to know that there's a 10-year-old boy who's destroyed because his mother went on the Oprah Winfrey Show and told all her business. You do the right thing, even when other people think it may not be. And oftentimes, when you make a decision to do the right thing, immediately you're faced with doubt. Was that the right thing? Was that the right decision? I don't know, was that the right thing? You always know it's the right thing, when in the end, there is peace. You are rewarded by peace in knowing that you did the right thing.
Okay, that was that.
Is that the end of it?
That's the end of it. Somewhat sudden, but there we are. It's the way it ends.
So they must have chopped the end
would
of
think
it,
the whole
because
thing
I'm
is...
sure she didn't finish her speech
No, of course you didn't.
abruptly.
Venice says, great takeaway, service and significance is important. Yep, I agree, Venice. Right, so do you want to make any comments on it or just an outro?
How long is it, Moira?
How long is it? 10 minutes.
11 minutes, is it, Mara?
10 minutes, 12 seconds. So we've got, you can have a minute or minute and a half.
What did you think of that, Paul?
Well, I'm not recording yet, Ted.
You better, yeah.
All right, sorry.
Yeah. If you start recording, that's good, Moira, and Ted can ask me that question.
I'm just about to. 3, 2, 1, go.
What did you think of that, Paul, from Oprah Winfrey?
Well, 2 words stood out for me because they are 2 of the 4 key values in Toastmasters, and one of them is service and the other was excellence.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, right, well, that appeals to me. And Oprah's view on service would be pretty much in accord with the generally accepted Toastmasters view of servant leadership, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you, yeah.
The excellence. I'm remembering our past district director, John Cox, who took the word excellence with him throughout his year as district director. And he treated the word excellence as something that you would always strive for, rather than ever actually achieve as a end goal, but the process of striving for excellence was well worth doing, and was something that had an influence on me, I must say. The one other thing that came to my mind, Ted, was that when I was a kid, I grew up in a family where the word conscience was used a lot. So your conscience will guide you on what decision to make. And it was, I would love to have a conversation with Oprah about whether the word conscience is part of her life.
Interesting, actually. And you said you took two important things out of it, and that was service and excellence. And that did come across very clear. But I also took the other two words out of it, respect and integrity, particularly when she gave us that story at the end about the Sunday school teacher by day and by something else by night. That was definitely showing respect for the audience, and also respect for a 10-year-old son of that lady, which I thought was superb. So I'm glad you enjoyed that, Paul, and that will bring us nicely to the ending of segment 2. And tomorrow we want you to come back to listen to the personable, passionate and persuasive Paul O'Mahony, because he is going to be talking to us about, I just after misplacing where I had my notes now, sorry. Paul is going to be talking to us about celebrating the positives of the past year by our international president.
Okay, Ted.
I just after misplacing where I had my notes now, sorry. Paul is going to be talking to us about
It's actually, Ted, about the theme of our international president's message in the Toastmaster magazine.
all right, interesting, yeah.
Right.
So I don't know. I think, Ted, it might be an idea to just re-record the very ending.
Is it glad you enjoyed that, Paul?
Yeah, it is the June magazine.
Just hold on.
I'm glad you enjoyed that, Paul, and that will bring us nicely to the ending of segment 2. And tomorrow we want you to come back to listen to the personable, passionate and persuasive Paul O'Mahony, because...
Right, from there onwards, Ted. Okay?
Okay.
So you've introduced the personable, persuasive Paul O'Mahony. He is going to be speaking about, or whatever.
Okay.
Okay? 3, 2, 1, go.
Who will be speaking about our international president celebrating the positives of the past year.
Okay. Is that good enough for you, Paul?
Just one last thing, Ted. The exact words are "celebrate the positives." It's plural.
That's what I
of the
said.
past year. Did you? Okay.
Who will be speaking about our international president celebrating the positives.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It was pluralized.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry about that, guys.
No worries.
Da 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 bum ba bum ba 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 bum. Right. Just the persuasive. Let's get back to the two of you. Right, you ready, Ted, to introduce Paul?
Yes, Mara.
3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome, Toastmasters, would-be Toastmasters, listeners and friends. And as promised yesterday evening at the conclusion of segment 2, we told you, at least I told you, that Paul was going to be speaking to us today about our international president and the positives of the past year for that gentleman. So, Paul, it's over to you.
Thanks, Ted. Distinguished Toastmaster Richard E. Peck is our international president. And this month's Toastmaster magazine has a short piece by him entitled Celebrate the Positives of the Past Year. And I started to read it and realized that one of the things that was in the back of my mind was the question about how many people read the Toastmaster magazine cover to cover. And I thought, well, there's a very big message coming from the international president in the month of June, which is on us already. And I thought, what a tricky thing it is to do, to write a message to the whole of Toastmasters International at the end of a year. What do you say about the year that we've just had? So let me tell you what Richard has to say. This is what he says in the article, and I'm going to read you the whole of the article. It's very short. The end of the 2020-2021 Toastmasters year is almost here. This year has been unlike any other. It has been a year that tested the resiliency of all of us, and one in which many sacrifices were made, from in-person meetings and conferences to in-person mid-year training and convention. It was a year where we all seemed to be glued to the computer, a little more than we were used to. We have all been a witness to history. Yet, rather than focusing on what we have lost, let's celebrate our successes. Let's celebrate our successes. Richard continues, as Molière once said, the greater the obstacle, the more glory in overcoming it. As a new member, did you deliver your icebreaker speech? Taking the first steps in developing and strengthening your communication skills? If so, congratulations. That first step is the longest stride on your path. Maybe you completed your first, second, or even fifth path in Pathways. Think back to July the 1st, 2020, and reflect on the improvements you have made in your communication and leadership skills. Celebrate all that you have achieved. Leaders develop a new set of Leaders developed a new set of skills. Toastmasters leaders had the distinction of navigating an entire year through a global pandemic, developing leadership skills that no one had before. Celebrate what you learned and the skills you gained. Did you become a Zoom setter, traveling to clubs around the world, participating in meetings, meeting new people and learning about new cultures? Maybe you even delivered a speech, provided an evaluation, or participated in table topics at a faraway club. Unique opportunities that arose from our current environment. Celebrate being a part of making the world a little smaller and decreasing the distance between us. I personally, Richard says, I personally had the privilege of joining in memorable events, such as witnessing the Das Marinas City Toastmasters in the Philippines celebrate the induction of 11 new members during a single meeting. Seeing MNI speakers become the first club to charter on the island of Montserrat, and participating in club anniversary celebrations with other outside members from around the world. There may have been times during this Toastmasters year when things seemed dark, But it was during these times that each of you became the light for others. You continued to be there for one another, offering support and encouragement. Take time to celebrate you, your accomplishments, and your resiliency. Richard says, my first viewpoint, that's the article he puts in the Toastmaster magazine every month. My first viewpoint in September 2020 was titled, Undeterred, Unwavering, Unstoppable, We Are Toastmasters. Every one of you proved that statement to be true. Thank you. Thank you. What a well-crafted article. When you think of all the different things he might have said, and then you think, well, this is what emerged. A terrific encouragement to us all to celebrate what we've achieved during the year. I'm going to ask in a second, I'm going to ask a really tricky question to you, Ted. I'm going to ask you, what have you achieved during the last year? What has been your number one thing that you feel like celebrating during the last year?
That's not a tricky question at all, Paul. That's very easily answered. I think for me personally, to have got through COVID the way I did without ever being upset or frustrated or terrified or frightened, and I regard that as my success. I think I've come out, well, we're not out of it yet, but I felt that I never went through the stresses and strains that some of my friends seem to constantly speak about. And I sometimes I said to myself, is it the way I'm not seeing things the way they see them? But I must say that I didn't find it stressful in any way whatsoever. I did a lot of reading. I certainly enjoyed going to Toastmasters. And I think as a member of Toastmasters and as a Toastmaster, that was one of the things that helped me through this COVID. Because otherwise, what would I have been thinking of? Particularly when we were confined to our houses and our homes, and we couldn't go to work, and we couldn't do the shopping, and we couldn't see our grandkids, and we couldn't see our own kids. We could see them on Zoom, as Richard referred to being stuck or glued to the computer. So they were all big things, but I never let it get me down. I just carried on, because inevitably we will always get to the other side. The light will always shine in the darkest of spaces. All we need is that little chink. And now we're getting little chinks of light again, and the world is starting to reopen. So I think that will be one of my successes personally. That's what I will look back on 2020 and 21, this pandemic, and this something, as Richard Peck also referred to, history in the making. And I think I've said it before, that in 100 years' time, even 200 years' time, they will look back on this time as a cataclysmic time, because that's what it was for the world. So that's my thoughts on it, Paul.
And you're a naturally optimistic person, Ted. I've always experienced you that way. You will always find the silver lining on a dark cloud. So tell me, just during the year, to what extent did Toastmasters help you through the year?
Oh, well, having the opportunity to travel to different countries without ever even leaving my own couch or my own chair, so that was incredible. I mean, that was science fiction stuff not too long ago, when we were when we talk about Star Wars and some of those other scientific shows about being able to travel through time and travel to different spaces, and the matter being moved scientifically. That's exactly what has happened. I'm inside in your sitting room with you now, or inside in your studio, and I can see all those books behind your back. But sure, I've never even physically been in your house. I can see the red lampshade up over Myra's head like a halo inside in Myra's house. Now, I have been in Myra's house. I never took too much notice of the red lampshade until now. But this is the beauty of the time that we're living in, that we can be transported through time to other people's houses and other countries. And I can be sitting here in the evening and I can still be down in Barbados in the afternoon. So that's incredible, all at the same time.
So it sounds to me as if you've had a year in which you've been able to satisfy your curiosity about other places and other people.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. And as Toastmasters, as we say, like, one of the reasons we stay in Toastmasters is, I think, our appetite for learning. And every day is a school day. And certainly as a Toastmaster, you get that opportunity in so many ways. You can really feast yourself. Sure, it's a wonderful time to be alive, I think. It's a wonderful time to be living on this planet.
So, listeners, let me just read you the very last paragraph again of what Richard E. Peck had to say. There may have been times during this Toastmasters year when things seemed dark, but it was during these times that each of you became the light for others. Each of you became the light for others. You continued to be there for one another, offering support and encouragement. And then his final sentence is in this paragraph: take time to celebrate you, your accomplishments, and your resiliency. Take time to celebrate you.
Are we going to do an outro, please? Ted?
Sorry, I will. And that leads us on to a nice outro, Paul. Thank you for sharing Richard Peck with us this afternoon. And tomorrow, if you come back, nay, when you come back, Paul and I will be discussing similar topics in segment 4 of this week's offering of the Talk Show for Talkers.
Similar topics, Ted. We did agree a form of words.
Yeah, let's change that bit.
Oh. We may have agreed it, and I thought I'd typed it in, but it's gone, unless I put it in the wrong place. Nope. Okay, so, can you remember, Paul, what did we... I could have sworn I put it. Oh, here we are. Yes, I did put it. Achievement, recognitions, and aspirations.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be good to change the ending to that.
The similar topics, oh, yeah.
Paul and Ted discuss the recognition, how about that, of achievements with a small a, achievements, and their aspirations for the future. How about that?
I was just going to say achievement, recognition, and aspirations.
Well, say something anyway.
Well, what I'm doing is I'm quoting what I'm putting into the website, into Audacity, not Audacity, Anchor. So Anchor says, Paul and Ted discussed the recognition of achievements and their aspirations for the future. Or just aspirations rather than there. What do you think?
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah? And aspirations for the future. Okay?
Okay.
Update episode. Update episode. Okay. Let me get rid of me. The me thing is not working. Damn nuisance. used to be able to do this with a hotkey, and the hotkeys no longer work. I'd have to reinstall this program. That's me. Okie dokie. Right, that's that. I'll come back and do that later. I need to do that. F5. F5. Come on.
Hello, Marion. I just found it, so it's fine. It's great. Yeah. I was just, No, that, yeah. Okay, look. Hey, Marion. Hi. Look, I'll just, I have it now, and we're just about to go recording. So, I'll call you back later. Is that okay? Oops.
You having problems there, Paul?
Yeah, well, it just, Marion Brennan just rang me. So I was,
No, it sounds like you were having connection problems. I wish that Toastmasters International would change the order of the key things, the respect, integrity, so it was that way round instead of integrity, respect, service and excellence. I think respect is a good one to start with anyway.
Yeah, I think so too. Respect.
And it's so much easier to
integrity,
remember.
service and excellence. I
Yeah.
think that's the best way to go about it too.
Yeah.
That's how I always try to remember it anyhow, and it doesn't
Well, I
always
remember
work,
it as rise and then do
Rise,
the
yeah.
mental switch of integrity first.
Yeah, why? Who came up with that?
Well, rise or the integrity, respect.
The integrity, respect.
Toastmasters International.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Why did they come up with that? It's
Yeah,
not
exactly.
a kind of a natural acronym.
Yeah. It's not
yeah,
natural
but
at all.
it's there would have been a lot of conversation about what order to put them in. You can be sure that would have been debated for
Yeah, I'm sure.
a long time.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't ask you and me, Paul, about it when we weren't asked to come into the debate.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be. I don't know when it was first. It could even be Ralph C. Smedley who came up with it.
Could be.
Certainly.
Why? How did he get into the debate?
Well, they might have lifted the 4 values from him. I don't know
Okay.
when it was first introduced, mind you.
It was certainly after 1924, anyhow.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Okay, folks, let's get on with segment 4. Who's going to
Can I
introduce?
make a suggestion, Paul? Also, when you finish on segment 3, Paul, you should actually give the outro, because when you're finished giving your piece,
Yeah, that's a good point.
you can just go naturally into it. Like,
It's a good point to have signaled to you. I shouldn't have just gone quiet and said no more. Yeah, that's a good point.
for future episodes, like.
All right, who's going to introduce this last?
So so remind me, Ted, can you just remind me, what did we say we would do during this this part? I would ask you a question.
Yeah, and I'd ask you the same question.
Which was, can you remember what the question actually was? Moira, can you remember what it was?
How would I remember?
It was about achievements, anyhow, wasn't
It was about the year, really.
About successes, yeah.
The year, the kind of achievements during the year.
Yeah.
What do you think have been the greatest achievements that Toastmasters has? What have been the greatest achievements that Toastmasters International has achieved, or that are we talking about our district, or are we talking about Toastmasters International?
Well, Toastmasters. I mean, when you speak about
But,
Toastmasters, it covers
what's
the lot.
the greatest achievements that Toastmasters, the greatest achievements that Toastmasters has, the greatest things that Toastmasters has achieved during the last year?
Yeah,
Yeah?
that'll do, yeah.
And what do you hope the year ahead will bring?
Yeah, true, yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
All right, Paul, you got to bring us in.
Okay. So shall I do the intro for this then?
Yes.
Do we actually, Paul, yeah.
Okay. Count me in, Mara.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome, listeners. Welcome to the Talk Show for Talkers on irishtalkers.com. This day, I have a big question I want to discuss with Ted Melanphy to kick off. I want to find out from Ted what he thinks Toastmasters has achieved during the last year. And I also want Ted to ask me the same question so that we can see what we each have to say about this topic. And then in the second half of the episode, we'll look into the future. So Ted, let me start then with asking you, what do you think is the biggest thing that Toastmasters has achieved in the last year, in the year 2020, 2021?
Oh, I think that's a very easy question, Paul. The very fact that we are still a thriving and vibrant organisation, particularly since we're after going through a pandemic and a type of pandemic that the world has never known before. And the reason it was such a wildfire pandemic was because of our means of travel now, which was actually an aid to the spread of this particular pandemic, because the world has faced pandemics before, but they were never as catastrophic as this one has been, because it spread around the world so fast because of our modes of transport, our technology, and the age that we're living in. So to still have Toastmasters going as vibrantly and as energetically, if not even more so, because we've invented new ways of communicating with each other. We've opened up new avenues of communication and contact, and the world has become a much smaller place. And those of us who are in Toastmasters, I hear people talking about Zoom fatigue, and I can understand that. But what I can't understand is, do people look at the advantages of things that happen at all? I mean, we can travel all over the world now and not leave our own sitting rooms. We can have parties with each other. We can celebrate things. We can sing a song. We can give a poem, recite some wonderful poetry. We can have our glass of beer or our bottle of wine, or even glass of wine or anything else, glasses of water, whichever kind of a liquid that will float your boat. So I think Toastmasters has done very well, and definitely it has been a successful time. And one of the successes of us this year in the Talk Show for Talkers has been the collaboration between the three of us and our PR manager, Elizabeth Jordan. So I'm looking forward to our interaction with our incoming PR manager, James Horford. And I'd suggest now that we should have that gentleman as one of our very first guests, if not even next week. You never know. We might be able to get on to him to know would he like to come on next week before he's officially brought in to take over from the excellent Elizabeth Jordan.
Can you pause for a minute? That topic about Elizabeth Jordan and James Herford and all that's subject to it. That's a different topic altogether. If we go down that road.
But you asked me the question, what do you think we're going to get next year, didn't you?
No. We were going to start with, I was going to ask you about the past. What what has Toastmasters achieved in the last year. Then
Yeah.
you're going to ask me, what do I think it has achieved in the last year?
Well, I gave my opinion now, so I'll ask you what your opinion is.
Yeah, but no, but you see, hold on. You brought James Herford into it,
Yeah.
and that relates to the future. And I had a phone call from him this morning,
I didn't
which
know
I
that.
need to tell you about.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And you see, I meant to tell you about this before we started. So it wouldn't be such a good thing to bring him into it at this stage.
Okay, Mara, you can cut
I'll
that
tell
out.
you
There,
about.
so. Mara can cut that out, so.
But
Well, you'll have to guide me as to where to cut.
it came to a lovely ending just before Elizabeth Jordan came into it, Moira,
Okay,
because
yeah.
we were
I
talking about
just need to find that
picture.
spot.
If not even next week.
Yeah.
If not even next week. Yeah, cut that out. Never know. We might be able to get on to him to know.
We need to go back further.
Have a kind of a liquid that will float your boat. So I think Toastmasters has done very well, and definitely it has been a successful time. And one of the successes of us this year in the talk show for talkers has been the collaboration between the three of us and our PR manager. So we can cut that out. So,
We could cut. Well,
or do you want to leave it?
what do you
in?
think, Paul?
Stop it there.
Paul, what do you think? To leave that bit in?
Yeah, I think, yeah, if you just say one of the success has been collaboration between us and our PR manager.
That's,
And I think we
good.
just said
And
Elizabeth
then-
Jordan.
And then, Ted, you go back and put the question to me.
Okay.
yeah.
You know,
okay, so
and
she'll cut from
then-
there. Oops, what happened there? What happened there? Oh, for God's sake. Ah! No, what have I done? Come on. Mario, pay attention. I don't think I did anything.
Whichever kind of a,
I don't know where it was now.
or anything else, glasses of water, whichever. So I think Toastmasters has done very well, and definitely it has been a successful time. And one of the successes of us this year in the talk show for talkers has been the collaboration between the three of us and our PR manager.
Yeah, the only trouble with cutting there is that Ted is on an up
Don't worry.
inflection.
And maybe I should just give her name, should I?
No.
And leave it at that?
No, I don't think it's necessary.
Okay,
Our PR manager is good.
okay.
So just continue from there, asking the question of Paul.
John Wickham, FaceTime audio.
Excuse me, folks. John, I can't talk now. I'm recording. Okay, bye.
When's a good time to ring you? Tell you quickly.
In about an hour.
Okay.
Okay, bye. Sorry about that.
You're okay.
He's always phoning me at the wrong time, that man. Okay. Right, you know what you're going to say, Ted?
No.
I didn't think you did. Paul, could you tell
What am I-
Ted what he's
what am I
going to say?
Well, what's that question again you asked?
Just say. By the way, Paul, what do you think has been the greatest thing, the best thing that's happened in the last year?
Okay.
3, 2, 1, go.
And by the way, Paul, what do you think has been the greatest achievement of the past year, 2021?
It's been to help people get through the year. To help them get through the year in a different way than they might have got through the year. There are all sorts of ways of getting through the pandemic, Ted. I think one of them has been to watch a load of Netflix and to watch innumerable mini-series. Another has been to go running, to go walking, to go cycling. Another has been to get into baking and to really hone up your culinary skills. Some people undoubtedly have gone fishing if they've lived near a river. But Toastmasters offers something very purposeful. It gives people a chance to spend time improving themselves, but not improving themselves so much in general, in a vague kind of a way, improving our communication skills, our ability to get a message across from one person to another in a way that is attractive, in a way that has impact, in a way that matters. And it's that aspect of Toastmasters being purposeful, as distinct from being a general social activity, that I think has made a big difference, because people have gone to Toastmasters meetings maybe once a fortnight, maybe once a week. But for that period of time that people have been at Toastmasters meetings, they've been there with an intention of getting better, intention of improving their ability to communicate and their ability to influence other people for the better, support other people. So to me, it's something, the big achievement has been to be sustained as an organization which has got a purpose, a very clear sense of purpose. And it's all about self-development, self-improvement at a speed which is right for the individual. And to be able to keep that going all through the year has meant that people have had, members have had a period of time when they can say, right, this is time for me. And I'm not just trying to fill up the time, I'm trying to get some benefit out of it. Now, we haven't increased our membership as a whole. We've lost a lot of members during the year. And it may indeed take 1, 2, 3 years to rebuild the membership to the level it was before, globally. But those who have been members have, and who have been active during the year, have, I think, enriched their lives more than they would have done or could have anticipated doing. So it's purposeful activity. That's, I think, what Toastmasters has provided people with.
I agree with you, Paul. Purposeful activity. You are dead right. And one of the things about Toastmasters is that you get an education. Did we not get that education with regards learning how to use Zoom?
Well, yes, but Zoom is a piece of software which, you know, takes a little bit of time to use. But it's what you use Zoom for. It's one thing to be able to operate the software and to link up with each other, but it's what are we saying to each other and how are we saying it? And are we improving the way in which we're communicating with each other? Are we enriching our language? Are we increasing our impact? That's what it's about, I think. Self-improvement and self-driven learning. It's self-education, if you like, because you can go to a Toastmasters meeting and pass the time at the meeting and come away and achieve very little change in your own abilities. Or you can go to a Toastmasters meeting and carefully consider what you're doing and make an effort and notice what other people are doing and learn how you might imitate even the skills that other people have, and how you might take away reflections on what you've been doing. And I'm, you know, a great believer in the advantages of recording what we do at internet meetings, recording things that happen on Zoom and being able to watch them back and see what you do. and help each other to get better through the use of feedback from each other.
Yeah.
And I think Toastmasters is phenomenal at giving everybody an opportunity to practice some communication and get some feedback.
Yeah, and you've hit the nail on the head, because if you think about it, Zoom was there a long time before the pandemic struck us. And there was lots of talk about people working in offices and people working from home if they wanted to. There was no take-up. There was no significant take-up on it. But because of the pandemic, we had to learn very fast, and we had to learn on the hoof. And you asked the question there of how do you use it from a presentation point of view. The first time I knew anything about Zoom was when I was told, you're coming to a Toastmasters meeting and we're going to use this thing called Zoom. 3 weeks after that, I was conducting Zoom meetings for my own community, for my own family, where we managed to meet in the one room, and from different parts of the world. I have an uncle and cousins in New Zealand. I have a nephew and a niece in New York, and we all met up. And we all met up on Zoom. But if you had said that to me before pandemics ever came aboard, I wouldn't have had an iota, because I'm not techie minded, and I would never have been able to collaborate and communicate and contact them. So out of every cloud is that silver lining that you were speaking about.
And I suppose you can't expect everyone to have the same attitude or everyone to have the same interest and experience. It's quite normal for there to be some people who have found it very distasteful, very disappointing, very negative, not to be able to go along to their local club meeting and meet face to face and have face to face conversations. That's inevitable, and that will always be the way it is. And as we look forward into next year, we'll have different kinds of meetings. Yeah. And there will undoubtedly be some people who will be delighted with it and others who will be a little disappointed. So what can we do, Ted? All we can do is hope that things will go from strength to strength, would you say?
I would, and there was a different definition for Zoom before we came to this Zoom. So we'll zoom forward to next week, and we'll bring you another episode of the Talk Show for Talkers. And it's goodbye for me, and thank you for being with us.
And cheerio, listeners. Thank you very much.
And we'd like to thank Moira for being the brains behind the whole Talk Show for Talkers, for getting us out there on the air. Bye.
Cheerio. Right. I must tell you both about the phone call I had from James Herford this morning.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Good man.
And he rang, and he's not used. I mean, he hasn't ever rung me before.
Chad, Paul,
So-
we're still streaming.
Oh yeah. Well, look, no. We turn off YouTube.
Yep. Okay, you
Bye,
two. We'll
YouTube.
say
See you
goodbye
next
to
week.
you. Thanks for listening. I hope it wasn't too boring for you, as if. But the dulcet tones of Ted and Paul should keep you entranced. We'll see you again next week, God willing.